Sara Price, thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Class, this is Sara Price. Sara?
Why don't you tell me about the speakers you've had so far?
We've had a Catholic priest and a Protestant minister. We've also had a Jewish rabbi, a Muslim mullah, and a Buddhist monk.
And here I am, standing in front of you giving the last presentation. After all of those speakers from the major religions, what's left? What's left are the approximately 750 million people in the world, 35 to 40 million of which are Americans. People who don't have a religion or a belief in a god or gods. Linguists have a way of adding an A in front of a word to mean not. Atypical means not typical. Asymmetrical means not symmetrical. Well, if you believe in a god or many gods or goddesses, you're called a theist. Folks like me who don't believe in gods are called atheists. I don't know if you realize how difficult it is for me to get to the spot that I'm standing on. When there are social science classes on diversity or sociology or comparative religion, atheists like me are seldom invited to speak. Most high school students don't get an opportunity to talk with an atheist, so I hope you'll take advantage of my being here to ask questions and express your views while giving me a chance to express mine. I encourage you to interrupt me at any time to ask questions so I know you're awake. Question in the back?
I mean, I understand the words that you're saying, but is it true that you really don't believe in God? I'm having a hard time understanding that.
Let me give you an example to show you where I'm coming from. In March 1997, 39 people gathered in a mountaintop mansion in San Diego. I believe the area was called Rancho Santa Fe. These people committed suicide. Why did they take their own lives? They committed suicide because they believed they were going to be transported to a spaceship in the tail of the Hale-Bopp comet. That mass suicide happened in 1997, and the group was called Heaven's Gate. How do we know what they were thinking? How do we really know they expected to be transported to a spaceship in the tail of a comet? We know because before these people took their lives, they sat in front of a video camera and shared their beliefs. I feel sorry for the family and friends they left behind. It must have been a terrible ordeal for the survivors. I believe it was especially tragic because I don't know anyone outside of the Heaven's Gate cult who believed there really was a spaceship in the tail of a comet. Well, guys and gals, from my point of view as an atheist, all religions are as unbelievable as Heaven's Gate. Spaceships hiding in the tails of comets, virgin births, reincarnations, 72 virgin brides waiting for martyrs in paradise, voices from a burning bush, direct communication with invisible gods or thunderbirds. To me, they all come under the categories of myth, superstition, or wishful thinking. Pink t-shirt?
Are there also different kinds of atheists?
Yes, there are. We have the foolish ones like me who admit their lack of belief in public, and the smart ones who mumble something about not being very religious. Different kinds of atheists. Not really. The terms atheists, freethinkers, and non-believers are basically the same. Secular humanists say people find their morals by examining the effects of their choices. But we're all in the same boat. We admire logic, reason, and science. We encourage separation of church and state. We're also big on accepting responsibility for our actions and being moral and ethical. One of our primary goals is to prevent people from forcing their religious views on us. Resisting religion has caused problems for centuries. Let me give you an example. In 1609, Galileo improved a Dutch toy to construct one of the first telescopes. Up until that time, there had been an argument that had gone on for 100 years about whether the Earth was the center of the solar system or whether it revolved around the sun. Galileo turned his new instrument on the night skies and saw the moons of Jupiter. He made mathematical calculations and then wrote books that supported Copernicus's heliocentric theory of the Earth revolving around the sun. In Galileo's time, many learned people believed in the Copernican theory, but didn't say so in public. Partially because it was a theory with no proof, and partially because of opposition from, among others, the Catholic Church. Why was Galileo's discovery so important? It was a mark against the Church. because they had insisted that God, via the Pope, had said the earth was the center of the universe, and now they've been proven wrong. More importantly, in a very dramatic fashion, it changed the way people thought. Before, when people looked towards heaven or paradise, it was up there, in the clouds. The second your mind changed to thinking of the earth as a rotating sphere moving through the solar system, circling around the sun, you were no longer looking up. You were looking out, away from the earth. Things would never be the same. Want to know what a dramatic difference it made? Take an easy chair to a wide open space, like a pasture. At dawn, sit facing eastward. As the horizon begins to brighten, your senses will tell you that you are motionless and that the sun is rising. However, with your knowledge of our solar system, thanks to Copernicus, Kepler, and Galileo, your brain will assure you that you are on a giant rotating rock that is moving you eastward at hundreds of miles an hour. Concentrate, and your senses will experience something that early humans never could. That the sun is a stationary point, and it is the earth that is rotating. Yeah, right there.
Aren't you afraid that when you deny God, you'll die and burn in hell?
No. Saying that hell exists doesn't make it so, and we atheists have never seen any evidence that it does. An earlier version of hell was a freezing cold chasm before the popular description of an eternal fire. Ever wonder where the model of hot hell came from? Some academics say you should look at pictures of volcanoes or visit Hawaii. Chasms of molten lava equals eternal fire. Burning magma equals brimstone. And the hydrogen sulfide smell of rotten eggs equals the smells of Hades. Of course, the question of hell is closely related to the other question, the big question. What happens after you die? We believe that when your brain and body stop working, that's the end of life. No reincarnation, no resurrection, no ghosts, no nothing. You die, and that's the end of the story. Yeah, I'll get to you in a minute. We think that if you only have one life to live, you have an obligation to live it to your fullest. Question in the back.
My pastor said that there's a scientific theory called intelligent design that proves that God exists. So what do you think about that?
When you give presentations like this, you often get the same questions. One of my friends, Tim Englert, interviewed a scientist about intelligent design. I'd like to share that interview.
Okay, Matt. Non-believers are often asked about intelligent design, or ID. Now, some people say intelligent design is based on science.
Intelligent design creationism has nothing to do with science. It's the latest round of a fight between science and certain dogmatic religious beliefs.
The latest round?
I suppose it began in earnest about when the Inquisition burned Giordano Bruno at the stake for claiming that the stars were suns like ours, and then sentenced Galileo to permanent house arrest for claiming that the earth revolves around the sun. The inquisitors put what they wanted to believe ahead of what science plainly showed. Intelligent design creationists do the same thing. They pretend that evolution is shot full of holes when in fact it's not.
Well, are science and religion in conflict then?
Absolutely not. Some of our best scientists are religious, and they find no conflict between their religious beliefs and their scientific efforts.
How does science work?
Real scientists try to find out whether something is true. They don't try to show that it is true. They test the results of their ideas and theories against actual measurable facts. Or else they perform experiments, get new, unexpected results, and try to account for them theoretically. Finally, they publish papers and let other scientists examine their results. By contrast, ID creationism has published barely 3 papers in 10 years, and not one of those has impressed mainstream scientists. ID creationism does nothing even vaguely scientific. It merely announces that evolution is so complicated it could not possibly have worked without external help. That is, ID creationism says, God did it! But it provides no evidence that evolution could not have happened without God's help. It simply masquerades as science.
Masquerades as science?
Yep. Real scientists start with a question and try to find the answer. They don't start with the answer and try to justify it. We now know, for example, that Darwin's idea of natural selection is not the complete answer. Under certain conditions, mechanisms other than natural selection can also drive evolution. We found those mechanisms by asking questions and looking at the answers that nature gave us.
And intelligent design theory.
The intelligent design creationists, in stark contrasts, presume the answer. There must be a God because everything is so complex and it works together so well. God must have intervened in evolution to make everything come out right.
How do they justify this claim?
As far as I know, there are no tests or research to support this wishful thinking, just a handful of oversimplified mathematical calculations and an excellent marketing plan. Intelligent design is the modern successor to creationism. In fact, that's why I insist on calling it intelligent design creationism. It's the latest in a series of failed philosophical arguments that do not stand up to time and science.
Thank you for sharing your views and appearing before our cameras.
You're very welcome.
We atheists think intelligent design is creationism dressed up in a three-piece suit by a PR firm from Madison Avenue. By the column?
So you don't think God created the earth? Where do you think we came from?
I don't believe that God created the earth, the universe, or even Walmart. I think natural processes created the earth. I think generally Darwin had it right. Natural selection or evolution was the sculptor of the species. Blue t-shirt.
Isn't it true that this is a Christian nation since almost everyone in America is a Christian?
Is this a Christian nation? You all ask wonderful questions. I'm very impressed. Not long ago, Tim Englert also interviewed a history professor about that very question.
We often hear people saying that America is a Christian nation. Now, as a historian, what do you think about that claim?
Is this a Christian nation? The question should probably be, what is separation of church and state? Let me give you a little historical background. From the first day that the first pilgrim set foot on the sand at Plymouth Rock, a battle began over a simple question. Should the citizens of this new land be ruled by secular law or by religious text? In round one, the Reverend John Winthrop ordered Roger Williams out of the Massachusetts Bay Colony because Williams was very critical about the colony's not practicing true separation of church and state. And the battle was on. Although there were some secularists among the early settlers, the average person acknowledged a supreme being. Many were devout theists, and others avoided rocking the boat by not addressing the subject. Decades later, during the painful process of creating the Constitution, the framers argued they fought over many things, from personal liberties to trade to economics to geography. They whispered their concerns about slavery, but the religious questions were always there. Maybe not in the forefront, but they were always there.
What kind of questions?
Questions like, should there be church taxes? Should there be a national religion? Should Americans have religious freedom? Thomas Jefferson first used the term, a wall of separation between church and state, in his 1802 letter to the Danbury Baptists. 3 years after the Constitution was ratified by a majority of the colonies, the Bill of Rights was created. The First Amendment contains what is known as the Establishment Clause. Let me read that to you. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Did the Establishment Clause settle the question?
Absolutely not. To describe the discussions as heated between groups who liked or disliked the wall would be an understatement. Well, I almost said that the arguments raged back and forth between both sides, but that wasn't true. Neither side was truly united. It was more a loose affiliation of opposing sides with common goals.
What were the battles about?
Oh, monuments for public display, slogans printed on currency, military chaplains, religion in schools, and many other subjects. A milestone came decades later in 1947. Justice Hugo Black echoed Jefferson's wall of separation phrase when he wrote the majority decision for the United States Supreme Court in the case Everson versus the New Jersey Board of Education. Now, that decision defined parameters and basically said that you could not force your religious views on others.
Well, did the 1947 Supreme Court decision settle the question?
Oh, of course not. If it had, you wouldn't be here talking with me. The battle continues today between those who wish to eliminate Jefferson's wall and those who want to maintain it. The pendulum swings back and forth between yes and no. Each side cheers or groans at each round of advances or declines. Come and see my replacement in 50 years, and we'll see if there's a more definitive answer.
Well, I'll have my replacement do that.
Saying America is a Christian nation because the majority of Americans are Christian would be like saying that since the majority of Americans are Caucasian, this is a white nation. Neither one is true. America is not a Christian nation, although the fight to make it one has been going on since our nation was formed. Yeah, in the back.
You don't believe in God. Do you believe in good and evil?
Good and evil? People can do things that by any definition are terrible antisocial acts, things that are harmful to others, and I would call those evil acts. But sometimes it's all in your point of view. Ask an antelope what he thinks about being eaten, and he'll tell you the lion is evil. The lion will say he's simply having dinner. By the way, being philosophical about it doesn't stop the pain or the death of the antelope. Nations go to war against each other. Our side is fighting for God, country, and apple pie. Folks on the other side are evil. Folks on the other side think the same thing, only reversed. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't commit evil acts in war, because they certainly do. It means that the definition of good and evil can change with your point of view. When some people talk about evil, the image that comes to their minds is Satan or the devil. Since we atheists don't believe in gods, it follows that we don't believe in devils. We don't think of evil as a noun or a person. We also don't believe that a person must be religious to be moral. The atheists I know act ethically. To us, this means don't hurt other people, don't take their possessions, and don't lie. Yeah, right there.
Isn't atheism a religion, just like all the others?